What's going on, guys? Scar coming at you with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, we're gonna be diving into Ikoria. Gonna be kind of analyzing the various colors at a time. I don't know depending on how long this is gonna be when I kind of film everything together. I may do one video with all of it, or I may break it up into like one or two parts just to kind of do like a little bit here and then a little bit there, just to kind of overload you guys and try to like tell you everything in like an hour's time or something like that. Just kind of give it a little bit more digestible way of telling you overall like what I feel like, what's maybe gonna be decent, what may be on like the weaker side, or maybe more limited play. But overall, I honestly, from what I've seen in Ikoria, it's gonna be a very interesting set. I feel like it's definitely gonna shake up the meta from what we're used to, a bunch of aggro decks and mono red, you know, quick damage. I mean, that's still gonna be prevalent because none of those cards kind of leave the set as of right now, so those cards are still gonna be there. But I think there's some interesting cards that are coming into the set that can kind of slow some of those decks down, kind of maybe also give another competitor to more of that aggressive aggro deck and come from a source that may not be the color you would be thinking that would be able to compete with the mono red deck overall. But guys, if you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to know when I post more videos, hit the subscribe button. Let's move on to the video. All right, so first up is white. Pretty much from what I've seen in white, there's a couple good cards that I think right off the bat you can kind of like give argument that they're going to definitely be good cards. You're going to see a lot of play of them. The first one being up is this Luminous Broodmoth. This card right here is a pretty solid white card. It is a flyer, costs 4 mana, two colorless, 2 white. Whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return to the battlefield with under its owner's control with flying counter on it. So the thing that's crazy about this is, compared to like the Shepherd, this is like the white version of Shepherd, but the difference is it doesn't say to exile that card and then bring it back to the field as a token. This says just literally bringing it back onto the battlefield as a flying counter on it. So you can get an Ajani here. It dies. You have this out. That Ajani now comes back as a flyer with the same effect, and now it has flying, which is going to be pretty ridiculous. And I think overall, a lot of the cards in white are going to take benefit of this. Like, I mean, could you imagine like a flying Daxos? Like, that's gonna be crazy. I mean, I don't know if you want to splash in a second color. Could you imagine doing like a Boros effect and doing like Boros like white aggro with like an Annex or something? Because could you imagine like an Annex 1 dying and then coming back and then being an Annex still on top of it and then also being a flyer? Pretty crazy. I think overall it's gonna be an interesting card that you're gonna definitely see a lot of play of in the white deck, just because it's like a good way to keep their cards on the battlefield. And there's no way to really get rid of it unless you get rid of this first. So solid card. Next card up, we got the Cub Warden. It's a 4 mana, 3 colorless, 1 white. It has mutate, so you may cast this for its mutate cost, which costs a little bit more. It's 2 colors, 2 white. Put it over or under non-human creature we control. They mutate into the creature on top, plus all the abilities under it. So you mutate this, either mutate this or you mutate underneath it, and then whenever this creature mutates, put 2 1/1 cat creatures on the battlefield with lifelink. So you play it, you mutate it, or yeah, you mutate it by putting another card underneath it. Well, mutate's a little interesting. I wonder how it's really going to work out. I could see it being good for certain things, but not good in all the cards that mutate. You throw another card underneath it, and now on top of this creature, you now gain the abilities there, and then on top of it, you gain the little 1/1 white cat creature token. So it has an interesting ability to mutate. Like, this is the card you want to mutate with other abilities. I don't think you're going to mutate this into anything. I mean, granted, maybe, you know, mutate another creature that's on the battlefield, and then they gain the 1/1s on top of whatever the ability. I could see mutate going one of 2 ways. So I actually think it's going to be interesting. I don't know how it's going to compete with the faster decks, but I could see it being an interesting like mid-rate game deck. This card right here is another solid card. I definitely think this is going to be one of those ones that any deck that plays any white, whether it's in the main board or on the sideboard, is going to probably play this. This is probably more of a sideboard guy, but it does have a good ability if, you know, you get paired up against a deck that runs Uros or anything that escapes from the graveyard. 2 cost, 1/3, which is already solid because it has a 3 base. Your opponents can't cast spells anywhere from other than their hands. So your opponents can't go ahead and play, you know, the escapes on all these cards that are currently from the last set. Overall, solid card. It kind of slows down pretty much pretty much anything that plays escape. It's like the another card that just stops your opponent playing anything from their graveyard, which is pretty good if you can't if you can't technically target anything from the graveyard. So not bad. On top of it, it also then cancels any like crap. I'm blanking on the card, but it's the 2-cost red card. You know, whenever they attack you, if your opponent has more cards than you do, you get like one of their top part of their library exiled, and you know you get it, and you can play for whatever cost without paying the actual mana cost. It actually would prevent your opponent from playing those cards. On top of it, also gets rid of adventure cards. So once you play a card with adventure, you can't play the other half. It slows down that completely, because that card's technically not in your hand anymore. Because I know you can't target it when your opponent goes to, you know, make you discard a card. So I think that stops that too. I could be wrong. Let me know down in the comments below if I'm thinking this wrong, but I know those aren't technically in your hand. But I think this card's actually gonna be overall pretty strong against a lot of the decks that run things that play from other areas than other than playing cards from their hand. So it may be an interesting card to play with in a sideboard if it's not a main board card. Then you got the Lava Brink Volunteer. As Lava Brink enters the battlefield, choose odd or even. 0 is even, so anything with 0. I mean, I don't think there's many things that are 0 cost, but you never know. And then, well, I guess X cost, but it has protection from each of the converted mana costs of the chosen value. So anything that would be even, it would have protection from even if you chose even. Anything that would be odd, it would have protection from odd. It could go one of two ways depending on the deck you're playing. If you're playing like mono red, and I know they run like shocks, it has protection from shock, so it can't get shocked out. But at the same time too, you could play a lava coil on it, or you play like 2 ogres or whatever. So it can go one of two ways. I would say depending on maybe the deck, maybe make this even. You know, it can't get Torbrand, can't get killed by Torbrand, but if I know your opponent's playing like small red, maybe you want to play this for odd, and then you can literally take out a Fervent Champion, because Fervent Champion can't do anything to it. So literally it would eat a Fervent Champion if it had Embercleave on it or something. So I guess it's one of those situations whenever this comes into the battlefield, you got to judge with the battlefield and make your decision on what you think this should be, and then kind of like, you know, go from there. But I think it could be pretty decent for 3 mana for a 3/3 that has the ability to have protection from a certain converted mana cost. I think this is overall pretty solid. There's gonna be some of these sprinkled in this set, with the ones that are 4, like this one for example, it's 4 mana, 2 colorless, 2 white. But if the colorless was paid by black or red, this card does something additional other than just the base effect. So each player sacrifices an artifact, chooses an artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker among them, and then sacrifices the rest. So they only keep one of each. But if you play the black or red, the person who plays this card is the one who chooses those cards. So you could technically, you know, be the one to make your opponent just have all their weaker, keep their weaker creature, keep like an omen out or something, instead of like maybe their strong enchantment. If they have a planeswalker, you know, it could be quite interesting being the one playing this and then making the choices for your opponent, and your opponent getting frustrated because now they're left with like a 1/1 and like something really, really crappy. So overall, could be interesting. I don't see this being like a 4 of, but I could see this maybe a deck splashing, a 3-color deck splashing this card, maybe 2. Could be interesting as a card just to kind of remove like a board wipe. I mean, 4 mana board wipe in a way, kind of get you back on curve. Not bad. Fight as 1, I think, is one of the uncommons that kind of stick out to me. With a lot of these mutate cards or cards that have tokens that come on the battlefield, there's humans, and then half of the cards are also then non-humans. So the cards that the tokens go on usually non-human. So I think this card is actually good. It's a 1-cost instant. You can choose one or both. You can give target human creature +1/+1 indestructible, and you give target non-human creature indestructible +1/+1 until end of turn. So you can either, depend on where you are in the game, get 2 creatures indestructible and +1/+1. I don't see anything wrong with that until end of turn. So I think overall this could be pretty decent in like a more of an aggressive aggro deck that plays like these cards with tokens and stuff. So like I think there's gonna be like this token tribal deck where you play like humans and you play like cards that can get the tokens. This card here, Flourishing Fox. Whenever you cycle another card, it gets +1/+1 counter. Put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it could cycle for 1. So a 1 mana 1/1, but then you can pump it up every time you cycle. Maybe play like the cycle like deck. Not bad. There's a card in blue I actually think that this could be interesting with, where it kind of like, you know, you use the benefit of cycling. So pretty interesting. This card here, Nothing special. 4 mana, base cost, 3 cost mutate. Whenever this creature attacks, you control, get plus X until end of turn, where X is the number of times this creature has been mutated. It's okay. Nothing great for competitive play, but I can see this being decent and limited. So card. Keensight Mentor. When Keensight Mentor is the battlefield, put a vigilance counter on target non-human creature you control. This is what I was saying before about how non-human creatures get these counters. And then you can tap 2, tap this, and put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with vigilance. So not bad. So I mean, if you play like anything with vigilance, the next card up is a card with vigilance, so in like a limited format, it can be pretty decent. I mean, it's not a very strong card, so I don't see this being in competitive Magic. I mean, there's cards that make you assign damage as the toughness, so maybe there's a deck that could play this and give things in the deck that, vigilance counters, so then they don't tap. I don't know. Majestic Aurora as a 4 cost mutate, 5 cost normal vigilance. Whenever this creature mutates, you gain 4 life. I don't know if there's a mutate tribal deck. I don't really know. Who knows? But it's a little pricey. Maybe more limited card. Not really a competitive card. Splendid Mare, lifelink, 3 cost lifelink, 3/3. Not bad in limited. 2 cost cycle. Whenever you cycle it, you give target creature a life counter. Not terrible. 2 costs, give target creature lifelink. Not bad. So overall, it's okay. I would say it's more limited than anything. This is yet again another limited card, Sanctuary Lockdown. Humans, you get +1/+1, so you give any of your humans +1/+1. Tap 2 untap humans you control. Tap target creature and opponent controls. So maybe like a lockdown in a limited format. I could see it being pretty strong in like draft or sealed or something like that. Playing like the human tokens and stuff like that. Nothing super crazy. Stormwind Capador, flying on if non-combat damage would be dealt damage to this, prevent that damage and put a +1/+1 counter on Stormwind Capador for each 1 damage prevented this way. Not bad. I mean, there's a Azorius Flyers deck that could probably run this, and if you try to burn it, you can't really burn it. It would get pumped up, so I could see it being some interesting. I don't think it's gonna be like a lot of. You may have a 1 of or 2 of, but I could see it being a decent card to put in a Azorius Flyers deck, because I know it's more of a budget deck and this is uncommon, so it fits in that landscape. Swallow Whole, as there's a cost to cast this spell, tap an untapped creature you control, exile target tap creature, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature tapped to pay this spell's additional cost. So you can target, this is actually not bad. It's slow, unfortunately. It's not instant speed, but it pretty much gives you an exile for 1. And if you tap a creature in additional to play this, you then give the creature you tapped to play this tapped additional cost, that +1/+1 counter. So not bad. It's decent spot removal, but it's not instant speed. I don't know. It's on the, I feel like it's on the fence of if we'll see play in competitive, but I don't think it's terrible. Definitely a limited card you definitely want for some removal if you're playing white in like your sealed or draft. So here's the Valiant Rescuer. Whenever you cycle another card for the first time each turn, create a 1/1 white human soldier token. Not bad. 2 mana, 3/1, cycle 2. Play this in a deck that has, this Flourishing Fox in it. I feel like there's gonna be some interesting trigger effects from these cycle cards. All right, so then the last uncommon that's here is target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's blocking, instead put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. I actually think that's pretty good for a white deck. You go to block a creature, pump it up with 2 +1/+1 counters instead of just a +2/+2 effect. I actually think that's actually pretty good. Don't know if it's gonna be maybe more an aggro deck, but I don't know. It seems pretty decent. Anything stick out in the commons and uncommons? Nothing so far. I mean, white, it's a 2 mana Divine Arrow that deals 4 damage to target attack on a blocking creature instant. Not terrible, good unlimited. Don't know if it's gonna make it into like competitive play. This guy here, when you recycle a card, gain 1 life, has a cycle ability of 1. Not bad for like a limited life gain. This isn't bad. This cat in limited, if you play it 1/1, you get it when it dies. Not bad. 3 costs in limited. You can either give it first strike or a flying counter. I think this one's actually pretty decent. 1 mana, choose 1, gain 4 life, destroy target enchantment, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. I don't think it's bad. I think it could be like used in like a sideboard maybe if you want some enchantment hate or some life gain maybe. Nothing super duper strong. They brought back Pacifism. This is like a interesting synergy. It's a cat, but it has synergy with a human, so maybe human tribal is an interesting thing. This one here is yet again another card that gives your humans more attack. Whenever you cycle a card, tap target creature and opponent controls. See, this could be interesting. In limited, just on the basis of it's a 3 cost. Whenever you cycle, you can tap an opponent's creatures, so that is pretty interesting. I think this actually is secretly good. Flash, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 as long as enchanted creature has vigilance. It assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. You put it on something with a big butt, or you just put it on something, you know, you split vigilance and just, you know, not bad. The only thing is though, if your opponent burns the creature, then technically the toughness is what it deals the damage with. So it can go kind of interesting if it gets burned, but overall not terrible. Nothing else. All right, so now diving into blue. All right, so fortunately, while I was recording this, the website I was using to look at the spoilers actually went down. So I'm looking at now the Wizards website itself. So we're just gonna kind of go one by one in blue. So we got Aegis Turtle, 1 cost 0/5, nothing special. They brought back Anticipate. We all know what that does, so that means Anticipate's going forward. This Leviathan, nothing special. Maybe limited card. It's a 7/7 for 7. Whenever this creature mutates, up to target X creatures, where X is the number of times this creature's been mutated. These creatures don't untap their control's next untap step. Maybe late game in limited play. Decent card. We got this card, 4 mana, 2/4 flyer, cycle 3. Whenever you cycle this, you may put a flying counter on target creature control. Decent unlimited, nothing special for standard. Then you got Boon of the Wish Giver, 6 costs, draw 4 cards, cycle in 1. I could see this card being good in like a Simic ramp deck or something like that, where you have a lot of mana, you want to draw 4 cards for 6. Not terrible if you know you're gonna get the mana back by untapping it with the untapping at the end of turn. 4 cost, flash, enchant creature. When enters battlefield, tap enchanted creature. It doesn't untap during its controls on tap step. It's just a tap down for blue to kind of slow down your opponent. Decent unlimited, nothing great for competitive play. 3 costs, counter target spell unless the control pays 4. Not terrible. 3 costs. Just another counter that would probably go forward. I can see seeing some play. I mean, it's not going to be over any of the cards that, you know, just counter straight up target spell, but unlimited, it's definitely a counter I would probably run. Flash Crab, 4 cost. Flash, nothing special. Limited play probably. Heron, 4 costs. 5 costs to play, 4 costs to mutate. Whenever this creature mutates, draw a card. Limited card, nothing fancy. This is actually kind of one of those things. Whenever you cycle a card, you may pay 1. If you do, exile target artifact or creature you control, return to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this is where I think if this is like the cheaper end Thassa, that if you don't have the money, if you don't have the cards or don't have Thassas, you can run this instead. It's a 2 cost enchantment, and then it would be like a cycle flicker deck. I can see this being pretty interesting. There are some cheap 1 colorless cycles that I could see actually being very, very good. But overall, I could see seeing some interesting flicker deck that makes some trigger go off, and then maybe, you know, with Thassa could give you additional flickers. I don't know. Decent prop like Essence Scatter, very solid target creature counter, not bad. 2 costs guy here, or tap 1, tap, draw a card, discard a card. Limited play, be decent and limited, nothing fancy and competitive. When this enters battlefield, tap target creature, opponent controls that creatures on tap. 3 costs, 2/2, good for limited. Yet again, 5 costs, tap up to instant speed, tap up to 2 target creatures. The creatures on tap during their controls and tap step. Cycle 1, cheap cycle, nothing fancy. Limited card. Glimmerbell, 2 cost, flyer, tap 2, untap him. I wonder if there's something that you can do with that, but nothing really strikes my mind, but not that bad. Gust of Wind, this spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a creature with flying. Good in Azorius Flyers. Return a non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand and draw a card. Alright, not bad. So it could be a 2 cost, return target card, return a bounce back non-land permanent card. Okay. And then you draw a card. So not terrible. It's sorcery speed, so unfortunately it's like you gotta do it on your turn, so it kind of sucks. But in that sense, but I could see it being definitely good, and maybe in the Flyers deck. There could probably something you can do here. It could target, like I said, it could target other than a creature, like an unsummon or something like that. It can return an online permanent, and you get a card draw out of it. So there's you get like the card back in your hand that would actually be you when you use to play this. So not terrible. Instant creatures your opponent control get -2/-0. Maybe if you were in a blue deck and you're playing against a lot of aggressive decks, maybe you could play this. Has cycle 2, so not terrible. Keep safe, counter target spell that targets a permanent you control, draw a card. Okay, maybe you don't want something to target your planeswalker and or any of your creatures, play this. Yet again, I don't know. Interesting. 2 costs, flash, enchanted creature gets -2/-0 and loses all abilities, so just pretty much stops a creature from pretty much having any abilities. Not terrible. This is one of the rares that has the, like, we had green and red, create a target token that's copy of target permanent. Overall, not bad. If you spend red and green while you play this, cast that spell, instead create a token that's a copy of that permanent, except this token has when this permanent enters the battlefield, if it's a creature, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So if you were to, like, let's just say you copied an Uro. Let's just say you're playing Uro in this situation. You copy an Uro, that's a copy. It fights now, if you play the green and red, another creature, and if it, because it's a legendary, I think it would assume fall in the legendary rule, so you'd have to sacrifice it. So you get to deal some damage, falls off the board, creature's killed, good to go. Just another, yeah, neutralize, 3 costs, instant counter target spell. You can cycle it. Okay, that's solid. So when something falls off counter-wise, we got another counter, great. 3 cost. This costs 2 less to cast if you control a human creature and a non-human creature, draw 2 cards. So this could be a 1-mana sorcery instant, or 1-mana sorcery, draw a 2-card spell. If you have cards that fall in that, like, non-human human thing. Okay. Let's see. Omniscience, uncommon. Whenever you draw a card, put a 4 shadow counter. Remove 8 4 shadow counters. Omniscience gets an 8/8 Kraken. Not bad with the cycling. Definitely good for limited, I guess, if you know the game's gonna go out a little bit longer, so you can get an 8/8 in like 8 turns, or if you have some cycles, you get it a little faster. Not terrible though. Whenever Phase Dolphin attacks, another target attacking creature can't be blocked. Okay, so I can see there being one of those decks that, you know, assigns damage with toughness, plays this, just to kind of, like, you know, forces your opponent to not be able to block one of your additional guys. Not terrible. Could see there being that one of those decks that would run that. Poliwag Symbiote, creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast if the creature has mutate. Okay, so we see our first card that makes mutate cost a little cheaper. When you cast a creature spell, if it has mutate, draw a card and then discard a card. All right, I think this is actually pretty solid for those mutate decks. So I think blue would be one of the colors you want to splash in for mutate. Let's see, we got Pounce and Shark. Has flash. Whenever this creature mutates, you may return target creature and opponent controls to its owner's hand. So it's a mutate creature that bounces something back. Flash, definitely limited play, but I don't think anything competitive. Reconnaissance Mission, 4 mana. Enchantment. Return a creature you control. Whenever a creature you control deals damage to a player, you may draw a card. Very expensive enchantment for competitive, but definitely good for limited. I like this Octopus. I can see there being some uses for it. It has flash. Whenever a creature you deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Mutate it for 2. I think it's pretty good. Put this on one of those Krakens. Not bad. Not bad. I think this could actually see some decent competitive play. In like even Dimir or even a counter deck, or even a Simic Flash deck. I could definitely see this seeing some play. Shark Typhoon, another interesting card. I think is going to be interesting. I don't think that it's going to be seen a lot of play in competitive, but I can see it seeing some interesting because it's like one of those things. If you have a blue deck that's like counters, but you're trying to look for a win con, I can see this being definitely a good win con. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX blue shark token with fly-in, where X is that spell's converted mana cost, or you can tap X and 2, discard this card, draw a card whenever you cycle this, create a XX blue shark creature token with fly-in. I can see this in like a Simic deck, and or even in, you know, a mono blue control deck or something like that. I can see this card seeing some play in some sort of way, but I don't think it's gonna be super duper like top tier competitive like deck. Definitely good for limited too, in like games that go on a little while. Start on development until end of turn, target creature becomes a blue serpent with a base power and toughness of 4/4. You have a weak creature, you just swing in at your opponent assigns blocks and thinks that it's going to try to hit a 1/1. Play this card, boom, your creature's now 4/4. Their creature dies. Okay, in limited. Definitely not going to be a card you're going to see a lot of in competitive, but it's okay. Let's see, we got 5 and 3 even outer. Whenever the outer deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. Good for limited. Not really going to see any play in competitive, but looks like it's a very cute card. I like otters. Let's see, we got Voracious Great Shark, 5 cost flash. Whenever Voracious Great Shark enters battlefield, counter target artifact or creature spell. So a very expensive counter spell, but you get a 5/4 out of it. Maybe in those Simic, maybe those like in those flash decks, late game big creature with flash with an ability. Maybe to give something else, so you just don't have Mystic Spellbreakers. You have something a little bit stronger. Okay, not terrible. I don't think it's gonna be top tier competitive, but I can see this guy seeing some play. Let's see, Wingfold, 6 cost. When it enters the battlefield, choose flying counter on hexproof or hexproof counter. Limited card, definitely not a competitive card. And then we got a 3 cost. When this enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on target non-human creature you control, and then tap 3 and tap it, put a +1/+1 counter. So I'm curious in like an Azorius Flyers, like I'm wondering maybe you play something like this. Everything is pretty much flying. Maybe like a 1 or 2 of. I don't really know, but overall not that bad. All right, let's move on to black. Let's see what's going on.
All right, so after doing some quick editing and whatnot, I noticed that the content I had for the previews was going to be over an hour, and I still had 3 more categories to go. I decided to just kind of break up everything into smaller videos. So this one's going to just be 2 colors. It's going to be blue and white, and then we'll move on to maybe green, black, and red. Be a little bit longer in the next one, and then we'll just finish everything up with multicolor and splash colors, and then lands in the following video. And I'll probably just roll those out slowly over time, whether they'll be multiple on the same day or just one day on every day, just to get everything out. But hope you guys like this video. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the sub button, and I'll let you know. I'll see you in the next video.